ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the President of Pakistan Mission International, Mr. Shakil Ahmad.
Now I would like to actually introduce Pakistan Mission and its objectives. We are a young organization, but believe me, if you have got a strategic approach and vision, you can achieve a lot of things in a very short span of time, provided you have the will and you have got the way to do it. We have got the presence in US and Canada, and now we're going to expand into the Middle East and Europe as well. We have already started some activities which are already in the pipeline, and I don't want to go into details because that won't interest many audience here because they are not Pakistanis. So you can follow our website and social media to find out what Pakistan Mission International is up to. Because the names of the Muslim is not blended properly. To reform the name and image of the Muslims, we don't need to fight. We need to have a strong media to reform the opinion of the public around this. Our youth, major concern I would highlight here, our youth is our asset. And this is the face of the nation. Our youth is different to us because when we migrated for the financial reasons. But when we came here, we were stuck amid cultural barriers, and we were sailing two boats. We had the bindings back home as well, like we had to feed and help our people overseas as well. So we were sailing two boats, and we couldn't focus, we couldn't deliver, we couldn't be that productive as our youth is. Because they are born and bred here. They are best educated and supported by the Australian system. So they are very happy and successful in the professional occupation they are serving in Australia. I believe that on top of our religious activities, on top of our academic obligations, we should offer an environment, a training to our youth to build their character. This is a long-term planning. Just imagine what our generation will be doing in 20 years. They would be continuing as white collar, they would be continuing as blue collar. No, we should change it now. We should lay the foundation for our generation to come and be a powerful element of the Australian society. And the last, thank you very much, and may Allah bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Going forward, we will introduce the next speaker, Mr. and Brother Kaser Trad. He is the CEO of the Australian Federation of Islamic Councils.
We saw the passionate speeches during the lockdowns, and we saw Jihad go beyond what many other MPs have done, and he reached out to the people who were locked down in their houses, and he helped bring food hampers to them, and he cared for them. I was sitting there complaining to myself that we're 45 minutes and we haven't even started. He has to go to functions like this, maybe several functions every night, maybe other functions during the day, and wait and put up with delays and all sorts of things. The life of an MP is not easy, and to be a successful MP, you have to accept invitations from many people to many functions. His father, Haj Ali, I've known him since the first time I went for Hajj, or maybe even before, in 1987, and I've worked with him in the Lebanese Muslim Association where he held many posts. So we see the entire electorate really standing behind Jihad Dib. When I heard Shakil asked me, he said, should we make this a fundraiser? I said, what for? I said, he doesn't need money. He doesn't even need to be promoted. The electorate's already behind him.
Good evening for everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Shakil Ahmad and his team for inviting us to this event. I am honored to be among you this evening. I am delighted to be on this program in honor of the Honorable Jihad Dib. I have known him for more than 4 years, and I follow his programs with interest. MashaAllah, as I see, he tries to embrace all society, and especially Muslim communities, together each other. And we hope to see him in higher positions in the future. As the Turkish community, we wish him success, inshallah. I also would like to express my condolences to the people of Pakistan. As you know, they recently suffered at terrorist attacks. Our innocent brothers and sisters were martyred. We are very sorry and pray for the brothers and sisters in Pakistan.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call upon the stage the Honourable Member for Granville, Miss Julia Finn. A round of applause, please. Thank you.
To all the eminent sheikhs who are here this evening and all the community leaders and Consul General, thank you all for being here. I think the Consul General may have left, but I'd also like to offer my prayers and my sympathies to the people of Turkey and Syria who passed away today after this awful earthquake. It's an absolute tragedy. And I fear that those numbers, it's 500 now, but I fear that that will grow. And there have been thousands more injured. Friends, we are gathered here today to honour my good friend Jihad Dib. And Jihad will hopefully be the first minister from an Islamic background in New South Wales, in the New South Wales Parliament. When Jihad entered Parliament, he wasn't the first Muslim MP in New South Wales, but he was the first in the Legislative Assembly, which makes a big difference. Our role as a representative in the Legislative Assembly is to represent every single person who lives in a certain area. And there's 93 across New South Wales. And as you all know, unfairly, he's probably held to a higher standard because he is seen as a representative of the Muslim community. But it's a standard he meets and exceeds every single day. Friends, I just want to share you a few anecdotes about Jihad and how he is really true to his principles and a really good Member of Parliament. Our friend Kaiser Trad mentioned earlier that some politicians, they come to your events and they talk about Palestine and then they never mention it when they leave the room, or words to that effect. Jihad is the opposite of that. I remember there's been a number of times when there have been atrocities committed in Palestine in particular, where he and I have both spoken in Parliament, and we've spoken beforehand and prepared our speeches together. And that can be a difficult thing to do. I personally have had the Daily Telegraph give me a very difficult time about having spoken in support of Palestine. But it is the right thing to do. And
I want to say how humbled I am. It's beautiful, but incredibly embarrassing when people say nice things about you and caring things. Tonight started as Shakil saying, we're going to do something in my house, and I was fine with that, and then it grew to something bigger. And I see all the community elders here, and the leaders and the religious leaders, and many of you are not here for anything other than to show support, and I appreciate that. And we're also here in the electorate. I think the second best electorate. Mine is the best, but Julia's is the second best in New South Wales. And she will argue the other way for it.
But this time, you are in her constituency.
I am. And I've got to say this, and I'm not saying this because Julia just spoke. If you support me, then I'm asking you to support Julia. And we're all working together and we're helping out, we're packing help as well as Julia in her area and me in my area, delivering them to people, checking in on people, not going on holidays and pretending we didn't have a job, as unfortunately a lot of other members of Parliament did. And I'll say that publicly. We were there. And when you elect somebody, all you expect is that they are there. They're there when you need them. As my dear friend Kaisa said, sometimes you want to be everywhere that you can't. But what you do need is when the chips are down and when life is really tough, that somebody speaks up and stands up. And we did that during COVID. And also that one of my proudest moments, there was a few. These are my highlights from COVID, if you can have it. One, actually starting something where I spoke on in Arabic on 2GB, encouraging people to get vaccinated. Two, making sure we've got the vaccination happening locally. Three, not forgetting those who were going without, or those who didn't get support, such as your permanent residents, such as your temporary visa holders, your refugees, your international students, because they went from having a job to nothing. And four, and the most important, I think, was when there was a decision to separate communities. And one community could go to the beach as if nothing was going on, and another community had helicopters flying above their heads with loudspeakers telling kids to get off the park.
I wanted to speak on bigotry especially because, as you know, the PMI, it's one of the things is to focus on the youth, right? And the youth, I mean, I'll ask this to the entire audience, how many of your children watch mainstream news television? I think zero. All of your children watch YouTube, they're on Facebook, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram. So you'll see a lot of bigotry and Islamophobia and, you know, a lot of other sorts of, you know, just corrosive parts of society. They're eking their way into our social media. Where now we think that we have a grasp on bigotry, where, you know, a lot of you would have faced in the 2000s, but now that bigotry has shifted to the online space. You are no longer being called out in the streets. You are now being hated on by someone from the other side of the world, who you have no contact with, and like, unlike with Jihad example in Kabaga, where you could see them press flesh and convince the man otherwise. The people now, it's the audience of 7-8 billion people. You will not be able to change minds that easily. So I think what we're doing is actually playing catch up in a sense. We're trying to focus on traditional media, whereas your adversaries, the battlefield itself has moved to digital media.